I'm a senior researcher at ICCS. I'm leading a team of XR enthusiasts, very talented people doing research related to extended reality. And today we'll present our work related to the cultural heritage site exploration through object-driven detection, augmented reality. So moving on, I will start with the very typical journey of a visitor or a site explorer. So one packs their bags, they start traveling, they visit their area of interest. They aim to see and observe, engage, learn, and perceive a lot of things from their journey. But there are a lot of questions rising when they reach certain locations, such as the one that I'm seeing here. This is a typical archaeological site where you come across with a lot of ruins that have a lot of history, that have made a lot of impact, that they aim to tell you a story, but they're not quite able to do so. So keeping that in mind, we moved forward with things that I will be talking about today. So moving on, since we are a team of XR enthusiasts, the solution was kind of obvious. We wanted to establish actually that augmented reality has a lot to offer to digital heritage. So we wanted to establish that augmented reality can actually immerse our audience. So what is our aim and what does it do? It allows of interacting with the surroundings that are typically enriched with virtual elements. We are in charge of these virtual elements, so that means that we can make them as majestic and as luxurious as possible. We aim to engage the attention of the visitor. We aim to recreate conditions that no longer exist, and that's one of the main drivers of this research. We aim to experience concepts in novel ways, because even though some items already exist, novel ways can actually help you see or perceive things in another way. We aim to promote enjoyment, engagement, and even learning. At the same time, we want for the end user to acquire knowledge and skills in an environment that is rich in sensations. It's not just a plain observer of some items around them. What is quite special about archaeological sites and outdoor heritage monuments, and why is it such a big deal in our lab? Archaeological sites have very specific specificities, and if you want to find solutions for visitors in such areas, you have to tackle some very specific items. One of them is that usually these sites evolve around large-scale 3D reconstruction, because as I said before, we talk about a lot of ruins and items that used to be there, used to have a certain functionality, but no longer exist. At the same time, there are usually areas that are outdoors, are in remote areas, or are in areas that have no good internet connection. So this is another item that we have to keep in mind. These are preserved elements, usually historical monuments. So we are often unable to install sensors or other elements and items that might help our work. At the same time, because they're outdoors, there are changes in the lightings and the textures, flora changes, the day changes, the sun rises and goes down, there is snow, so many things vary. At the same time, the visitors, they're typical average mobile users like us, so they usually have smartphones that they have low demand in power and energy. Unfortunately, in some of these areas, there is very little existing information to track, yet there is such a dense archaeological information to display. So moving on, we wanted to tackle these issues that arise in such locations. In our favor, we use this very specific technology. It's the localized simulation technology. And more specifically, we use the SLAM in order to make sure that we can extract information from the environment's point cloud, because we wanted to actually map an area and use devices location within that area. That means that we wanted to use a visitor in this specific location to be in our favor. At the same time, these technologies are markerless and easy to use, and they perform well, especially in large-scale sites, since we have to superimpose very large virtual reconstructions. Later on, you will see about buildings that might be up to 150 meters long. At the same time, we use the GPS in our favor as much as possible and as good as it can provide information. So we came up with the circular approach. Circular is the name of the platform that I will be mainly presenting today. It's a two-part solution. It consists of two elements. The first one is a web-based content management system that it's mainly addressed to the content owners. That means it's possibly a museum, an archaeological site, or even an organization that wants to display their content at specific locations. And the second part of this solution is the mobile AR app. This mobile AR app uses specific technologies to be able to track information that exists in these archaeological sites and later on display the augmented information to the end users. To see a little bit more about this solution, we have the web-based content management system that the end user of this web-based system can create their own AR campaigns. They can decide on a map about the specific location of points of interest. They will have a point of interest manager where they will be able to actually manage and navigate through these points of interest. They can add and create their own educational content that aims to target the end users of the mobile app. They also are able to curate and customize their content and select about the type of digital media that they aim to display. And at the same time, they can add markers and other content triggers about the media they have already inserted. And then we move on to the mobile AR app that it's mainly addressed to the visitors and the end users of these archaeological sites. That is an easy and simple solution to use. The end users have access to various content that can be easily customized according to their needs. They take advantage of the sensor data that already exist in the mobile phones. They have the luxury to have a very good UI, which is where they can actually use their fingers for content manipulation and interaction. They get access to several gamification and educational mechanisms. So moving on, circular, I will mainly focus on the mobile app now, has specific general functionalities. So we start with a typical journey of an end user. The end user can select a campaign which is filled with relevant content. So let's say that you enter an archaeological site and you want to understand specific things. There is a list in front of you with campaigns with very relevant content according to your needs. One of these campaigns will take you to a map. There, the point of interest, which will be associated with specific digital media, will appear on the map view. You can navigate towards the typical point of interest. It's a typical map journey like the one we are already used to. There you get information in textual and also in audio and multiple languages. We wanted to make sure, at least in these baby steps, that we try to include as many inclusive and accessible features as possible. And at the same time, every end user can have their own personalized profile and access to specific gamification features such as leaderboard scoring, quizzes, assessment forms. And then moving on, here comes mainly the technology that we aim to use, because as I said before, archaeological sites have very specific specificities. So that means that we have to use very specific technology to be able to tackle the issues that arise there, such as object tracking and scene tracking, because we're talking about precise localization of large-scale elements. So there we actually in advance visit these archaeological sites, and we generate our own image and object trackers to be able to assign to each one of these points of interest. The mobile app users can actually successfully register in one of these triggers, and at the same end, upon successful recognition, they can actually interact with the AR content. I will move on forward to let you know how you actually interact with this AR content. Then finally, we wanted to make sure that it's more than just an AR app. So we integrated along with the AR functionality, we integrated a 3D viewer where the end user can actually see, manipulate, zoom in, zoom out, large-scale element. They can zoom into up to the size of your palm, and then you can actually see and interact with them. And then at the same time, we have implemented a VR module in this AR app where the user can actually travel inside the large-scale reconstructions and visit them and see them from the inside. To do so, to have a successful AR app, we had to have also the content to be displayed. So that was another huge task for our team. We had to actually digitize the art from all the sites, the archaeological sites that we aim to visit. So that meant that we had to make a lot of discussions with archaeologists and other relevant researchers in this field. We had to perform our own research study to extract scientific references to make sure that we made the more accurate 3D reconstruction. Then moving on, we had to use physically based rendered materials, and we had to bake them and create them to make sure that we have photorealistic results. And then at the same time, we had to optimize them because we are discussing about AR mobile applications that they have very specific specificities. So moving on, we selected 3 case studies that they all exist in Greece. One of them is the island of Delos. There we reconstructed 3 very specific monuments: the Athenian Temple of Apollo, the Propylaea, and the House of Naxians. Then there was Dion in Pieria, where we reconstructed the Episcopal Basilica. And then finally, the Epigraphic Museum in Athens, where the Arsenal of Philo and other elements that were used within this building were also reconstructed. The application and the entire research is not on alpha, but probably on a beta stage. So it's still on a kind of an early steps. The functionalities have all been tested against of predefined metrics by a team of beta testers. We have used participants specifically in specific locations, and more specifically in the one in Athens, where the testers were able to assess all the functionalities of the AR app, as well as all the functionalities that relate to object tracking and the scene tracking. Finally, the testers were able to actually successfully finalize the AR flow, the one that was described before. And they were able to assess not only the AR mode, but also the 3D viewer that I described before, also the VR module. And finally, we tried to test at least two different times of the day. That was morning and evening, just to make sure how lighting affects such applications. Finally, we wanted to make sure that either visitors that have already visited the specific locations and then they went home and then they want to recreate their experience, or citizens that exist only remotely and they cannot visit these specific locations, that they still have access through immersive experience. So at the same time, we also created a VR simulation where end users, through head-mounted displays, of course, get access to these archaeological sites. I'm not sure if I can show a little bit. I'm not sure if you can hear the sound. We did use some ambient sound here.
I don't think we can, no.
Okay, that's unfortunate, because that was one of the pleasures that we implemented very lately. So just to wrap up with a few remarks and some future elements, we do aim to have an extensive testing of both the platform, the web-based platform, and the AR app. Our aim is to have a very useful and user-friendly tool for both the content owners and the visitors of these sites. So our aim is to gather both a team of experts and archaeologists, and also to use real visitors, where we survey them, question them, prepare interviews, focus groups, A/B testing, everything that we consider relevant in order to be able to extract information and feedback about how to actually improve the functionality and the usability of our platform. At the same time, because we have already done in the past and we have found it quite useful, we aim to perform a user engagement and technology acceptance study with a very specific focus group. At the same time, we aim to assess the tracking efficiency in very diverse weather conditions, We aim to have the entire winter to make sure and understand how the flora and fauna of these archaeological sites changes and whether this has an impact on the tracking functionalities. And finally, we aim to improve and tailor the AR app as much as possible. Thank you for hearing me. Just to make sure that I say it also in advance, the AR app is not yet available. It's only available on site for the visitors of these specific archaeological sites. Thank you for your attention.